All right, what's going on, guys? Simple Sports back with another episode. Hope you guys had a great week. Got some stuff I want to get to really quickly. So I want to start with LeBron James again. Um, Obviously, everyone's talking about LeBron James and the Cavs and all this stuff. And I made my notes for this episode a little earlier, but since that point, Cavs coach Ty Lue has stepped down for a little bit due to some health issues. The belief is he won't be gone long. Obviously, we hope that is the case, but you never know in these situations. But again, we hope that that's the case. So get better, Ty Lue, whatever you need. But let's talk about LeBron James. I want to bring up a point that I've talked about in the past, and I want to go into a little bit more detail, right? I want to talk about LeBron James and his legacy and where he stands. And the reason this sparked this conversation is because being a fan more so than an analyst doing this show, I tend to scroll through comment sections and Twitter threads and Reddit and so forth and so on, YouTube comments, in addition to reading the stories and the articles. I like to see what other people like myself, being fans, have to say or think about certain situations. And, 90% of it is people who probably don't even read the stories or watch the videos or watch the shows or listen to the people. They just sort of react to the headlines and maybe a few points that someone else has said. But by and large, I have seen personally a lot more, I don't want to say dislike, but definitely distancing, or what I call correction, sort of course correction in where people stand in LeBron James as far as what we view him as an all-time great player. And I think we're reaching the same point with LeBron James that we reached with Kobe Bryant towards the end of his career. And it's the fatigue of, it's just too much, okay? So let's go back a little bit. And I want to, part of this video is I want people to see that LeBron James is much more like Kobe in, I guess, effect on the game than people really realize or give him or Kobe the credit for, right? Going into 2011, after the summer, the Lakers won a championship to beat the Celtics in 7. The Lakers were still looked at as championship contenders. And you had all the puppet commercials with LeBron versus Kobe. And the idea was that they were supposed to meet, essentially. They were on a collision course to meet in the finals from, say 07, 08 through 2010, 2011, I think was the last year that anyone really thought that was the case. That was the first year that LeBron James went to Miami, was 2010-11 season, the last year that the Lakers won the title. And the belief was, well, can they make it 4 straight? And would they meet LeBron James or in the Cavs in the finals? That was obviously previous to him, or prior to him going to Miami. But the belief for those 3, 4, 5 years was that they were going to meet in the finals, right? And for me personally, just as a side note, that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I guess, miss story or sort of what if moment in sports, is what if they had actually met? How much would that have changed Kobe's legacy if he beats LeBron or loses to LeBron in the finals? How much does that change LeBron's legacy if he beats or loses to Kobe and the Lakers in the finals? For one, it probably, I guess, if they had met Cavs Lakers, I think it would have settled the debate, because by and large, although I think the Lakers as a whole were a better team, it was essentially Kobe and the Lakers versus LeBron and the Cavs. It wasn't a big 3 or big 4 like you have now. It was Kobe versus LeBron. And granted, again, the Lakers, I think, had the better team overall, but I think if it had happened at that point, it would have boiled down to those two. And unlike today, where you have, say, Cavs Warriors, you can say it's KD versus LeBron, but we all know that the Warriors have the far better team based on what we saw last year. But nevertheless, that never panned out. And like I said, I think it's one of the biggest what-if moments in sports. But the finals happened in 2011. Early playoff exit for the Lakers and Kobe happened. The big 3 happened in Miami. And all of a sudden, it went from LeBron being the most mentally fragile superstar ever heading into that year. Because what people forget is that was 8 years into the league that he hadn't won a title. And not only hadn't won, but came up very short twice in '07. Although I don't really hold that one against him, just because, he was 4 years into the league. He's young. The team wasn't very good. So it is what it is, but it still goes against the record. And then obviously the 2011 series against the Mavericks was, not that great. And I say all that to say this. People got tired of Kobe Bryant. After that last year and going into 12, 13, 14, 15, he started to suffer a lot of injuries, and it was kind of obvious, okay, Kobe's not winning another title. The Lakers aren't very good. Kobe's diminishing. His game is diminishing. His health is diminishing, and it's just not going to happen. And at the same time, LeBron came into focus, right? He was on the way back up. They went back to the finals in 2011. Obviously, things weren't great. They lost. They were down in the series going into 2012 against the Big Three in Boston. And after that, before LeBron James went postal in Game 6, turning the series around and really turning his legacy around, considering that they had yet to win a title, that would have been 9 years with 3 big shortcomings in the process. And if they didn't win it that year, they very well may have broken that team up in Miami just after 2 years, after 2 failed years, especially with all the circus around the introduction and the whole not 2, not 3, all that stuff and the decision. Like, it was very possible that they were going to break that team up. And LeBron James would have been ringless in 10 years heading into 2013 with, what team would he have gone to? Would he have gone back to Cleveland then? I don't know. And then maybe they don't get Kyrie because I think Kyrie was drafted in 2011. If he goes back to Cleveland, that doesn't happen. Yeah, so he was drafted in 11. So they would have had Kyrie in his rookie year, but does LeBron want to play with a rookie Kyrie in 2012 after they break that team up? I don't know. Who knows? But again, that's neither here nor there. But my point is that began the discussion of LeBron sort of taking over the mantle as top player in the league from Kobe Bryant. And some people seem to forget that it was the thing from 06, 07 until about 2011, 2012. Kobe Bryant was considered the best player since Michael Jordan. It was if you were to ask people at that time what their rank was for Kobe Bryant, it would have gone Michael Jordan 1, Kobe Bryant 2. And that was the discussion. And the whole thing was, could he win 6 and get tied with Jordan and possibly win 7 and pass him? And so people seem to forget that. And I think part of that was the fatigue with Kobe Bryant. And I think we're reaching that point now. What have we done the last 2 years with LeBron James? It's been all about his legacy. That's all we've talked about. We've talked more about his legacy than LeBron and the Cavs season, really, over the last 2 years. We've talked about it in part, but everything has been the argument. Is he better than MJ? Is he better than MJ? Ignoring all the dysfunction, ignoring, the bad play that we've seen this year, the passive aggressiveness from LeBron, all the Instagram and Twitter stuff. I don't have enough help last year and we need a playmaker. And this year talking about the All-Star thing. And now all we're talking about is how well LeBron is playing in year 14 and 15, and his numbers, the 30,000 points, the 8,000 rebounds and assists, instead of the fact that they coasted through the cakewalk East last year, only to get thrown under the bus and then ran over by Golden State in their first year together, Golden State's first year together. And, all things being equal, if they get to the finals, both Golden State and I'll discuss their chances towards the end of this video, and the Cavs, I think this time they'd be lucky to get a game. I think it'd be one of the most lopsided finals we'd seen, apart from the 14 finals with the Heat and the Spurs. And so what does all this mean, with the shift from the discussion from titles to stats and the media circus and all that stuff that surrounds LeBron James. LeBron James does not go a day since he has been in the league, does not go a single day without being on a sports network, whether it be Sports Center or First Take or Undisputed or First Things First. It happens every single day. Colin Cowherd talks about him every day. And listen, rightfully so. I'm not saying it's not the right idea, but my point is, it's just a big circus, and it's starting to become starting to have fatigue on people, because you start to see people in the comments. It used to be over the last year to 2 years, if you were to scroll through the comment section of fans on any LeBron James video or subject, it was full of LeBron James is the best of all time, and you know, he's better than MJ, he's the greatest, no one's close. And slowly but surely, you've seen that percentage sort of even back out to almost 50-50, whereas you still have some people that think he is. I personally don't. Obviously, he's a top 10 player. But you start to see more people side, or I guess distance themselves from that point of view as LeBron James being the best player, the second best, third best, wherever you want to place him. And for me, it's a couple of things. For one, much like Kobe in 2012, I think we've come to the realization LeBron James is not winning another title, especially not in Cleveland. And depending on what team he goes to, we'll see about the next couple of years. But barring some major NBA shakeup, I don't see him winning another title ever in the NBA. I also don't think he'll be in a Cavs uniform next season. And I predicted this 2 years ago that he'd go to the Lakers. And people call me crazy, friends call me crazy, things of that nature. And now it looks more likely than not that he's going to be gone. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that he's going to go to the Lakers anymore per se, but I am 100% convinced that he's out of Cleveland regardless. LeBron's legacy, much like Kobe's, I think, in the next couple of years, in his remaining years, will take a hit. And not necessarily anything negative, but I just think Kobe was just the thing at the time. LeBron was still young. He was only from 03 to 11. He was only in 8 years. And if you think about it, KD is sort of in the same boat. KD is in, I think, year 10, 11. Let me see. When was he drafted? He's in year 11. And so much like LeBron was 10 years in before he won his first title. KD won his 10 years in as well. And now people are starting to talk about him as the best player in the league. And it's just almost like identical to the situation between Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. And I just think that people are forgetting that. I think they're identical in that regard. Now, as far as their play and their personality, of course, they're different. But that storyline where people just got tired of Kobe, and Kobe was the thing for about 10 years, and then it kind of waned off. It faded away, and LeBron James took off. And now I think LeBron James is starting to fade away. And you're seeing the emergence of Kevin Durant over the last 2 or 3 years, especially last year with Golden State finally breaking through and winning the title, winning the Finals MVP. And again, Kobe Bryant was the thing, and everyone elevates the thing. Whoever that person is, whoever the best player in the league gets elevated in the moment. And much to that point, like I said earlier, people thought Kobe Bryant was the best player since Michael Jordan. People had him number 2 all time behind Michael Jordan. A lot of people did. It definitely was in the top 5 for most people. And as his career faded, his rank started to fade. He went from 2 to 3 to 4. And I think in his final years, there was some, what I like to call correction, if you will, on where Kobe Bryant actually should rank, which to me is somewhere in the top 10. And where you want to place him, once you get to that point, you're splitting hairs, right? If you want to say LeBron was second and Kobe was third, if you want to say Kobe was second and LeBron was third, you want to say they're 8 and 9, wherever you want to put them. When you get into that top 10, 15, even 20 greatest players of all time, once you get past, I think, MJ and maybe like Kareem and Bill Russell, I think you're splitting hairs at that point, right? And I think LeBron James, now that he's stopped winning titles, and like I said, I don't think he's going to win another one. He may get to the finals again, but I don't think he's winning another title. And with this 3-5 record in the final, with the passive aggressiveness that's starting to rub people the wrong way, it's being talked about consistently. And his final years right around the corner. I mean, realistically, how much longer is he going to play? I think we're going to see some correction in his discussion as well. And as a result, LeBron James is a top 10 player of all time. He's without question an all-time great player. One of the he belongs on the list of the 15 or so people who can make the claim. And I think that's how you would rank it. Your top 15. If you went top 10 to top 15 players of all time, you would only have a handful of guys that you could pick out, and those guys would be players who at some point or another, whether it be for a year or 2 or 5 or 10, much like LeBron's case, were the best player in the league for a stretch of time. And people can say what they want about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, from even if it was just 3 or 4 years, if you want to say from 2007 to 2010, he was the best player in the league. That's fine. They went to 3 straight finals, winning 2, and people thought they were going to go to 4. So this idea that Kobe was never the best player in the league, Nick Wright, you're out of your mind, okay? You're out of your mind. And I get it. Again, you're living in the moment, much like we did at the time with Kobe Bryant. And LeBron James, again, right now is, I think, the best player in the league as a whole. Now, if you're talking about this year or last year, I think it's Kevin Durant. I don't think it's close. I think, given what I see and what is to come, I think it is Kevin Durant. But with all that said, I don't think LeBron James is the second best player ever. I don't have that issue with correction. I sort of place people realistically. I don't live in the moment and try to place these guys ahead of where they are. I did earlier in my younger years as a fan of Kobe Bryant, but again, that's sort of that was the norm. And now that I've sort of grown up and matured and sort of really dove into what I'm seeing, I don't think Kobe Bryant's the second best player ever. I think he's the best since Jordan, as a whole, just because of all the things he accomplished, as well as the amount of championships he won. And yes, I know he played with Shaq. 5 rings is still 5 rings, okay? Shaq ain't winning those rings without Kobe. And if you think he was, you're out of your mind, because he didn't win in Orlando. He didn't win, well, he won in Miami, but again, he had Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne Wade, I consider one of the best players ever as well. I don't know if he belongs in that discussion as far as like the LeBrons and MJs, but he's certainly like an honorable mention. And the only reason I say that is because he came into the league the same time as LeBron did, and I think if it weren't for LeBron James, he would have been the best player in the league for a couple of years. But, you know, LeBron is who LeBron is. So I think, unfortunately, Dwayne Wade's legacy over time will sort of take a hit due to that. But it is what it is. We'll see how that shakes out. But as I said, I don't think LeBron's ever won another title. And I think we're starting to see the correction, the course correction, if you will, of where people think he ranks, like Nick Wright and some of his fellow followers and LeBron's followers. And again, I love LeBron. I've come to love LeBron. As a Kobe fan, that was obviously a no-no. But as I've matured and, like I said, as I've stepped back with objectivity, LeBron James is one of my favorite players for sure. But I think the course correction as far as where he ranks all time is starting to happen. So let's go on. I want to touch on a couple of things really quickly. Golden State, and it's one of the things. It's really funny, and this is part of the discussion I was talking about with LeBron James, where the Cavs win a game or two, and people go nuts. See, they'll be fine. They'll make the finals. They'll get through the East, and they've not played well really all year. And they had a stretch earlier in the year. They won like 18 or 19 of 20 games. And people seem to ignore the fact that the record of the teams that they played, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something in the neighborhood of like 350 and 460 or something like that, or 390 and 470. I don't know exactly what the number is, but I know it was a losing record by a pretty substantial number, 50 or so games. So it's not like they beat the best teams of the best. I mean, they beat Brooklyn, they beat the Pistons, and that was even pre-Blake Griffin. They beat the Bulls, and just the other night they beat the Bulls, and I'm like, people are going crazy over this, as the Bulls are not good. The Bulls were trying to lose that game and almost won it. And the Cavs, like, they're just not a good team right now. So I look at Golden State, and my point is, I look at Golden State, and they lose a game. My only concern with them is obviously health. Obviously, they have some injuries. They're a little nicked up right now. I'm not as concerned with KD and Klay Thompson's injury as much as I am with Steph. But I'm still 100% confident that a healthy Golden State team is far and above the best team in the league, including Houston. I don't think Houston would stand a chance if Golden State was completely healthy. But I am obviously willing to concede that with their injuries, they are certainly not a lock. If anything, right now, you got to make it like a 50-50 shot, at least with Houston. Maybe not anyone else, but definitely with Houston. And based on player injuries and what that effect may have on their level of play or even their availability altogether, that is a big deal. But we shall see what comes of the injuries. For now, let's hold. I think we need to wait and see how things play out. How serious is it? How much time is going to be missed in the foreseeable future, as well as maybe into the playoffs. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I think, again, if they get their health issues in order, I don't think anyone is even close to them. So we'll see how that goes. And the last thing I want to touch on really quick is the tournament, NCAA tournament. Obviously, today's Monday the 19th. No games today. I believe there's a couple of days in between the last round in the Sweet 16. I don't think there were any games today, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it starts back up until Thursday or Friday. But anyway, bunch of upsets. I just want to touch on this really quickly because, as I said in the past, I'm not that much of an NCAA fan as I was in the past. My team, UNC, lost. It didn't really bother me. Again, I've become desensitized to NCAA basketball. But my overall thoughts are that it is the result of the one and done. Why you're seeing so many upsets. It's hard to coach. There's no team basketball anymore. And when I say that, I mean, listen, obviously they play as a team and they play well together, a lot of these teams. I'm just saying there's no continuity with a lot of these guys because they're so in and out. You get one great player and you play great for a year, and then next year you got to change up everything you do. If this year you got a great point guard and then next year you got a great center, you can't play the same way. And of course, a lot of what happened has to do with teams playing out of their minds, right? You get a team that goes 50% from three and, 85% from the free throw line and like 3 turnovers for the whole game. And that's just hard to do. And part of it being with a tournament versus a series, you don't always get the best team winning because you only get one shot. And if you're off in a 7-game series in the NBA, you can live to fight another day if in game 2 you just didn't have your best effort. You have 5 more games hypothetically to course correct. And take Trae Young, for example, at Oklahoma. No one really knows how good he is, and a lot of that has to do with their team not being very good. And if you were to double him, where is he actually supposed to go with the ball? And we saw that a lot. Now, I personally, I have my own thoughts on Trae Young. He took a lot of shots that he didn't need to take. That now in the tournament game, he was great down the stretch of that second half to get them to OT. Definitely should have closed the game out, but he alone was great. He made a couple of huge buckets late to bring that game back to level. And they probably they should have won, obviously, but and they're not the only ones, I have questions like how good was UNC really? How good was Arizona really? How good is Virginia really? Like, they don't really have NBA players other than, obviously Ayton. But they have a really good coach and a player. And my question is, does that win in the NCAA? And it doesn't anymore because I think the distance between the 1-16 seed, while I don't necessarily think the 16 through, say, 10 or 8 have necessarily gotten better. I think the 1 through 7 have regressed a little, and they've regressed toward the mean where it's a little bit more possible with the one and done for these mid-majors and Cinderellas to actually get some wins. Having the best player doesn't always equal wins in the NCAA tournament. Case in point this year, 2 of the best players, or at least what we thought were the best players, and Trae Young and Ayton are gone. And Oklahoma got bounced in the first round. Arizona didn't make it to the second or make it past the second. So there's a lot of things that I think go into it. One, there's no home court, right? Home court is a big deal, especially in college, because with student sections and the atmosphere in college sports in general, having home court can be a big deal. I mean, if you look at the UNC Duke series, a lot of those games, the home team just wins, and it is what it is. And again, a lot of teams, although there may not be home court necessarily, but if you go to the games and you watch the games, a lot of people, especially at the game, but also the Twitterverse and things like that, they put a lot of pressure on the major teams, because many fans cheer for the underdog in the Cinderella because it's such a great story. Oh, a 16 seed beat a 1 seed, 12 beat a 5, so forth and so on. And you have a lot of people that cheer for that and they root for that. And in the social media world we live in today, that creates a lot of pressure on some of these guys. And these teams are young. There's young teams. They're young players. They haven't been in that kind of situation with that much on the line. You got 6 games to win, and if you lose one, you're done. And that's a lot of pressure. You only get one chance. You don't get a ton of time to prepare for what the other team is going to throw at you. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of upset. There's a lot of other stuff that lead to these upsets, but those are some major factors as well. And this year, as of today, there are only 7 top 4 teams left in the tournament, in the Sweet 16. So this year, again, I think there was a lot of correction. There was a lot of regression from the top to the mean. And I think we're starting to see that more and more and more. Last year's final was UNC and Gonzaga, and none of those players were really big-time NBA players. I mean, the game, as far as the product in and of itself, doesn't suffer, because if the competition is equal or even, you're going to get a good game. But I guess the quality of that game isn't necessarily there. Maybe the gravitas, as far as I want to see, like I remember back when Melo came out, and obviously I think he only played 1 year as well, but my point is Melo carried them to a national championship. And you just don't see that anymore, right? Even the Butler Duke series, Gordon Hayward was NBA All-Star. Obviously, and they obviously had one of the best coaches now, especially now in the NBA, Brad Stevens. But you have a great coach and an NBA player, you're going to go far in the tournament. Or you should go far. And again, a lot of things can happen in between them, but I think more than anything, we're just seeing a regression to the mean from the people at the top, because there is so much turnover with these one and dones, and I don't think that's going to change until that is changed. So some people love it. For me, that's a turn off. As I said in previous videos, I like the stories. I like the attachment to certain players, to certain teams, and I can't get attached to these guys because they come and go in the blink of an eye. Ayton, he starts to blossom, and it's like I don't watch college basketball as much anymore because of that very reason. And as I start to hear more and more and more about Ayton, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ready. I'm pumped to watch him in the tournament, and boom, he's gone. And the same thing with Trae Young. I have watched Trae Young a couple of times this year, and I'm like, man, he's going to get in the tournament. Let's see if he lights it up, sort of like Steph Curry did with Davidson, and gone before it even starts. And the other thing is these smaller colleges, the Cinderellas, as they like to say, no one remembers that stuff. No one talks about the Davidson run. No one talks about George Mason. No one talks about VCU anymore. That stuff came and went, and it was nice in the moment. But the people, they want to talk about Kentucky. They want to talk about Duke and North Carolina and Villanova. And like, that's who they want to talk about, Michigan State. And after today, after this tournament, maybe a year from now, no one's going to remember UMBC. No one's going to remember Rhode Island. No one's going to remember these guys. The Loyola, did I say it right? Boy, I butchered that, huh? Loyola, whatever. No one's going to remember that. Like, it's a great story for now, and I love it. I watched the games. I was pumped. I was jumping around, but it's come and gone, and that's that. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Because now who's left? Who plays on Friday? Clemson and Kansas. Let's see. Thursday's games are Loyola and Nevada. I have zero interest in watching that. Texas A&M and Michigan. Don't care. Florida State and Gonzaga. Don't care. Kansas State and Kentucky. I'll watch that one. Clemson and Kansas. Don't care. West Virginia and Nova. I will watch that. Syracuse and Duke. We'll watch that. And Texas Tech and Purdue. Don't care. So out of all of those, I got 1, 2, 3 games that I'm going to watch. I don't care about the rest of them. And that's part of what I think is wrong with college basketball is, again, you're not I'm not, and I couldn't tell you 5 players from all of these teams because, you know, they don't last, and the turnover so much and so often that it's hard to keep track of who's actually good. I don't know. Is Nova the best team in the country? That's what it looks like. But they could go get blown out by West Virginia next week, and no one would bat an eye. No one would notice because West Virginia isn't that far behind Villanova, and we've seen that throughout the course of this tournament. You're telling me UNC loses by 20? Arizona with the best player in the country loses by 20? Come on, man. I don't know how anyone finds that fun. But I'll watch, see what happens. But that's all I got. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm 30 minutes in and I'm tired of talking. I need some water. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.